Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting from May 19th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler sharing his screen, and he'll start off the conversation. And also Aaron McHale, Vin Pham, and Simo Hilston. Go ahead, Ralph.
We're looking at the issue number 250263. Disabled text formats can't be seen in the GUI. I've prepared either share a site. Post the link into the chat. Problem is the following. I've already prepared a text format. If you go in there, I've set the roles for content editor and administrator and text editor, CK editor 5, nothing special. Problem is the following. If you have my new text format, let's say I also create an article test and set it to my new text format and save. And current behavior, if you click here on disable, you get the warning, are you sure you want to disable text format, my new text format? Disabled text formats are completely removed from the administrative interface, and any content stored with that format will not be displayed. This action cannot be undone. Disable, and it's gone. And if you go in there, oh, it is set back to basic HTML. When I've tested before with the patch applied, we will see in a second. Where is it? Oh. One. .br, and let's see. If we go back in there, my new text format is back, and as the operation you have here, enable. Let's go back in there, edit it. Oh, it should have enabled it. Edit. New text format, save. And that's, I think, detail I wanted to show. If you go on disable now, disable. Save. Oh. In my previous test, the text format was empty, but that way it's okay. That another is set. Yeah, that's basically it. The text format is, if it's disabled, is shown. The only detail is something I've already left a comment a while ago. I consider it a bit difficult to distinguish active enabled text formats and disabled ones. One suggestion I've posted in
Slow down before
sorry,
before we get into the details. I forget why, but text formats are configuration entities, and it is possible to completely delete them if you're using config management. And there's some reason why you can't do that in the UI. All you can do is disable them. But yes, the current status is that when you disable them, they don't show up in the UI, and there's no way to re-enable them. And I think that's all that this issue is changing, right? It's keeping them in the UI so you can enable them again if you choose.
And
Does anyone else have questions about this?
I'm wondering because now I only saw that with a single text area, so and I don't remember the wording of the warning text, but I was thinking will it, if there is a content type with let's say long text with full HTML and then like a separate summary field with a custom HTML, so or kind of a mixture of different text formats in one content type, will it fit the warning text? So was it talking about content or field or text, or what was the wording?
So the current wording when you disable a text format, is that what you're asking for? Simo, is that what you want to know?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, I'm pasting it into the Zoom chat. I have a plain Drupal 10 site, and the text is disabled text formats are completely removed from the administrative interface, and any content stored with that format will not be displayed. This action cannot be undone. And what Ralph is sharing is the shorter message with the patch applied, right?
Yep.
Simo, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I'm thinking usually when we say content, we have a kind of a, when we have the content menu, but is it too technical to say here any fields using? But no, that then it also different. So could it be more precise with any field content stored with?
You're right, that would be more accurate. I would say that's out of scope for the current issue, but yes, it would be more accurate to say that any text field stored with the full HTML format will not be displayed. Yeah, content usually refers to a node, or sometimes it refers to nodes and taxonomy terms and other content entities.
But also here, kind of a it displayed the field, like the field in the form, but yeah, so it's a little bit confusing what it actually does when one disables it, and especially when if it can't be undone. But here with the patch, it has enable and disable, and it's something that just restores the old content, so that it's kind of just like it wasn't ever disabled. Is that so?
I'm not sure. Ralph, do you know? I assume that when you enable the text format again, you can once again display the text.
As I've shown, as I've shown the one second, let's test it again. Bold, save. It's full HTML. Disable. Now it's this select that I was trying to get to. And you're able to reselect something else. And let's test it. Enable. Save. Content. Yeah, it's remembered.
Is that a behavior that the patch is, or the issue is introducing? Or is that how core behaves if you load something with a text format that's not available? Because I seem to remember that if you as a user, for instance, go to edit piece of content where you happen to not have access to the text format, it will I believe it just shows the field as not available to edit. So I'm wondering if that's if there's a change there in terms of how that behavior.
I'm not sure. The select option, like we saw right now, I was unable to reproduce before that without the patch applied. So
Okay, that might be that's probably the default behavior, the core behavior then. So that's fine. I was just wondering if this issue is making any changes to that behavior, maybe we'd want to look at it.
we
But
could quickly. I could
I just
ignore
pasted into the Zoom chat a link to the site that I set up. So that's just using Umami with Drupal 10.1. And I removed a text format. And if you click on that link, you'll see that the body field is all gone. If I go back to the edit page, I see that nothing is selected for text format.
okay.
But the text is still there. So I think that's the same behavior that we're seeing with the patch. Yeah, this is exactly what I see.
Okay.
So I wouldn't expect that to be changed by the patch.
Yeah.
In the Zoom chat, Quinn asks, how frequently do users typically disable the text formatting? I would say it's not something that comes up very often. Yeah, only if you decide, oh my God, the editing experience is too complicated. And part of the problem is that we have too many text formats on our site. I'm going to get rid of one. That's the basic scenario for removing a text format. It's pretty rare in my experience. Anyone else have thoughts on that?
Well, I think that behavior might, so in 10.1, we now have the ability in core to restrict which text formats are available per field. So I wonder if that, people will use sort of disable text formats less often, and because it'll be more visible that on a field you can set which formats are available.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
You're right. So it's already rare, and it will get even more rare.
Yeah.
Is it also, because I don't remember having all those text forms usually, so is it also install profile specific? So if you start with minimal, then you create what you need.
Right. And if you start with Umami, you get basic, restricted, full HTML, and plain text. I think, yeah, it looks like the same as what Ralph has with the standard profile. Okay, so I think we all understand what the issue is dealing with and what changes it makes. So Ralph, what is the usability question here?
The only detail that bugged me is I have a hard time to distinguish between enabled and disabled text formats, because all are in gray and you have to read. And in core, there's already a pattern. For example, in views, where you have enabled a group and then disabled. And that way, for example, if you go here, disable, it's moved to the other group. And that way, it's easy to distinguish both states, which is in the current state on that page, not the case.
Aaron gives a thumbs up.
So, just to elaborate on my thumbs up, I agree that that is a better approach. I wonder if we should put that in a follow-up issue, because that feels like it's going to increase the scope of this specific issue. So, because the out of the, as far as I'm aware, out of the box, basically the sort of config, like the, how, what would we say it, like the collection class for config entities doesn't give you a massive amount of flexibility. So I would want to see that done in an issue where we can more holistically look at this, because it would be good to have a more generic way to have that approach.
Also, I think that if it's a list of 5, then splitting it into 2 different lists, it kind of makes it more complex. It adds the space and kind of it's if it's just a few items, then it's not so difficult to scan. But so that different 2 separate lists might be something that is kind of an overkill for a list of 5 items. But so there is some things to consider.
Maybe we could suggest adding another column for enabled or disabled. Because I think it's actually, a good point that most sites probably won't have many text formats. Most sites probably don't even, it's maybe small sites don't really adjust, create their own text formats. They just adjust the ones that come out of the box. So for this issue, if we were to do something, I would recommend we just say, look, let's add a column that indicates if something is enabled or disabled.
So that would kind of use the pattern from content published column.
Right.
Okay, but the very fact that we're having this discussion, I think validates what Aaron said at the start, which is that this should be a follow-up issue.
Yep.
I wonder what happens with views if there are no disabled views. I'm going to, you can't see it, of course. Oh, we have an empty table at the bottom, just label is disabled, and you have the table headers and there are no rows. So if we follow exactly the same pattern, then out of the box, we would have this empty table at the bottom. So are there any other usability issues? Shall we just give this issue a thumbs up, but ask for a follow-up issue to discuss whether to make it two separate lists or to add a column or some other way of separating the enabled ones from the disabled ones. Aaron gives a thumbs up. I think it's a good idea, unless there are other questions on the issue. Simo gives a thumbs up as well. We've lost Quinn. She had to drop for
The only
something that
detail,
came up at work. Go ahead.
the only detail that might be adjusted would be the thing Simo mentioned with the clarifying the text on disabling a text format with the containing fields. Not sure how you phrased it. That would be the only detail for the current patch. Maybe that would make sense. Aside that, yeah, I agree, and I've also wondered about that in regards of follow-up for the enable disabled decision.
Let's see, I'm looking at the issue and searching for the needs usability review tag. It was added in 18.
In 100, and in the last one also 115. It was re-added. If 15 added the usability review the first time.
Right, it was removed in number 50. Added back, as you said, in 115. Summary needs to be completed. This is making UX changes and should have a UX review. I am adding the tag. And that's currently the most recent comment on the issue, right? Yeah, so I don't see any other specific usability questions. So let's give the issue a thumbs up. Let's suggest changing the message instead of content. I think just text field. Any text field? Stored with that format will not be displayed, rather than any content stored. And if for some reason they don't want to do it as part of this issue, I'm willing to say that's out of scope and can also be a follow-up issue, but it's a simple change, so I expect someone will be willing to do it. And then a follow-up issue to decide how to display the disabled versus enabled ones. Does any other suggestions for how to rewrite this text? Do you like the idea of simply replacing the word content with the word text field?
I would question the word displayed as well, because you know, think about you know, even then, like any text field stored with the restricted HTML format will not be displayed. I'm wondering if we should just say something like will
not be shown.
Yeah, will not be shown, because I think display, at least to me, implies something to do with the front end, you know, displaying the content. So I think shown is a bit more, just at least for me.
But it
so
is a
sort of-
question of the front end.
Yeah. Well, this would mean it, wait, the content would still be displayed in the front end though, wouldn't it?
No, if you look at the link that I posted in, go to my test page.
Oh,
Whole-
okay.
Whole body is gone. It's not displayed, it's not shown. I don't see
Yeah,
a big
okay.
difference between those two.
Sorry,
ways of
I
using it.
misunderstood then. Okay. That maybe we should make that clearer then, because there's basically there's two things there. It's like the content won't be displayed, right? And then there's also the impact on existing text areas that just so happen to be using that format. That they'll need to select a different format before the content can be displayed, or so yeah, it feels a little bit ambiguous. I feel like we should be that the state, it should be quite clear what the impact is. Because if we change that from content to like text field, or that to me then implies it's just impacting the back, like the sort of content editorial experience.
I don't read it that way.
I think field content, text field content would be kind of a, because if we say that text field won't be displayed, then it kind of, I think it relates to the form. But if the text field content will not be displayed, then it's kind of a, I think it's, to me, it's more understandable.
I think if you say even text, like the words text field though, just those words imply like text field content, to me implies the content in the text field, which still makes me think of like the editorial interface, not the actual site front end presentation.
So for you, changing from content to just text field would suggest that this is something that only affects the back end, when it's
Right.
really something that affects the front end.
Yeah.
How about then just text stored with the restricted HTML format will not be displayed? So if it's text stored, then it kind of is not the whole content, and it's not something technical as field.
But text, a CK editor text area can contain more than just text. It can have media embedded in it, right? So it's not, I don't want to be too pedantic about it, but I feel like content is slightly more inclusive, because a text field can contain a lot of, you can embed videos in it, you can have images in it, you can have like all sorts of things in there.
And
Any text or markup stored with this format will not be displayed.
or go ahead.
I'm gonna doodle in the background. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm just gonna propose some text. Hold on.
And how about any text field stored with a restricted HTML format will not be displayed in the front end?
Maybe something like that.
I'm sorry. Oh, there it is.
In the
Having
chat,
trouble
sorry, yeah.
scrolling. Yep. Any content using the restricted HTML text format will not be displayed on the site. I had another suggestion also in the chat. The Zoom chat, by the way, I find is really annoying in many ways.
Yep.
So my suggestion is any text. Whoops, I put in or, but then I didn't add markup. Any text or markup stored with that format. Any text or put in the word markup. Stored with the restricted HTML text format. So again, the fact that we're having the discussion suggests that this might be suitable for a follow-up unless we can come to an agreement at this meeting. It's certainly acceptable for the current issue to take the existing message and strip out the parts that are no longer relevant. And that's what they've done. So I think just the current message is acceptable for this issue. If we can come up with something better, then we can suggest that. So I guess looking at the various options here, one choice is whether to use content or text field or text or markup. Yeah, Simo amends my suggestion, saying that we should say is assigned an enabled text format rather than a new text format. Yeah, it could be an existing text format, so it doesn't have to be new in that sense. It would be new in the sense that it used to be one thing and now it's another. But I agree that enabled is an improvement. But starting at the beginning of the sentence, what do we want? Content or text or markup, or just text or text field was my original suggestion. Shall we stick with content? Aaron likes sticking with content.
Also +1 for me. I don't find the thumbs up.
Okay, so you're not concerned about the overuse of the word content in Drupal. Okay. Stored. Aaron suggested using instead of stored with. I don't really care.
Is it actually stored with that?
Say again, please.
Yeah, I'm thinking, is it actually stored with the format, or is it stored as like a text and then the format is applied?
On the database level, the table has one column for the value, which is the text or markup or content, and another database column is the text format. So I think stored with is very accurate. From the user's point of view, do they care about that answer?
Probably not. But yeah, and it could also say save it with the restrict with the format, because it's not using it if it's disabled, but it was saved. It needs to be resaved. So yeah.
I guess thinking about the, the reason I like using is because it's, to me, it feels like a more active description. It's like, you basically what you have to do is you have to identify all the content that's going to be impacted, and then update the text format for that content. Now, to me, the word using implies that sense of like, okay, there's things actively using this format, actively engaged with this format, trying to find a different word. So that's why I sort of immediately jumped for the word using, because it feels like a thing that's happening right now, versus like the word stored feels like a more passive. It's like something, okay, I can, something is being stored, I don't have to think about it right now, kind of thing.
I actually think that the active is not what you want to convey. Anything that any page that you wrote a week ago or a month ago or a year ago that uses that text format is included.
Right.
So I think I prefer saved with. And Simo, that's what you suggested, isn't it? Saved with or stored with?
Yeah, I said saved with as one option.
Yeah, I think I agree with Simo. Ralph, do you have an opinion on this one?
Not a strong one. I'm in that regard okay with any suggestion so far. Stored, saved.
Okay.
I think I prefer saved with over used with. Because I also, you can tie that back to you click the save button to save the content. So there's a sort of slight link there back to the edit form in a way.
So let's see, I'm putting into the chat yet another draft. Any content saved with the restricted HTML text format will not be displayed on the site. I'm not sure that on the site adds anything. We might use a simpler word like shown rather than displayed.
Yeah, but on the site, I consider good.
Okay.
And helpful. But I also agree with the simpler verb shown instead of displayed.
Okay. Simo, Aaron, opinions on that part of the sentence?
I don't think it needs that on the site, but it's not a big thing.
Shown is shorter than displayed, so +1 to shown. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. Obviously, I proposed on the site. I'm kind of already in that camp.
Okay, well, I think that it sounds like you and Ralph care more about keeping on the site than Simo and I care about removing it. So I guess we'll keep it.
One slight detail. Would it make sense, because you have saved twice in the same sentence, to change saved with an enabled text format to assigned to an enabled text format?
Yeah, actually, the previous version said assigned. I changed it to saved with for consistency. But you think that it's too repetitive?
Somehow, yes. I just try to avoid to repeat at least in the same sentence something twice. So maybe it would make sense in that case.
I always found it difficult doing user support for my mother because she was an English professor.
Oh.
And to her, it was just bad style to use the same word to refer to the same thing twice. So she would talk about a window, and then she would talk about a frame, and then she would talk about a box, and they were all referring to the same thing. And I take the opposite point of view. If you're going to refer to the same thing 3 times, you should use the same word 3 times to avoid confusion.
At the university, we have a whole content team that exists to take the very wordy content that academics produce about their degree programs and rewrite it to be in a format that is appropriate for websites. So yes, yeah, yeah. With this, we have people who writing web content for the web is very different to writing content for books or academic papers.
If you don't want to just say saved with twice, we could add 2 letters and say until it is resaved. So it's kind of same but different.
What do you think of that, Ralph?
1 second. 1, 5, and 1. Yeah. Yep. Last one for me.
Okay, I think we are done wordsmithing. Let me just paste into the chat and change the second saved to resaved. Resaved is one word or hyphenated? I think
Hyphenated.
let me do a quick Google search, or maybe it's a DuckDuckGo search on the word resaved. Let's see, there are plenty of results. Wiktionary comes up without a hyphen. Simple past tense and past participle of resave. To save again, and it lists the hyphenated version as an alternative form. So as far as Wiktionary is concerned, no hyphen is the preferred form. Let's see. Who gave a thumbs up to the last version with the hyphen?
That was me.
Okay.
Probably the wrong choice.
Simo, Aaron, do you care about the hyphen? All right, let's go with the hyphen.
No, I don't have a strong feeling. I just, we could also without the hyphen, no problem.
Yeah, I don't mind either way.
Neither do I.
Well, the only thing it would make me mind is if we had a, let's say, like a house style or style guide that recommended one way or the other, but I don't know if we do. So, unless in the absence of one, I don't mind. Although maybe we should have one.
There is a document page on interface text.
Yep.
And it does talk about this sort of thing. Here's the link. Let's see, the page table of contents is style, UI elements, word choice, capitalization, which has subsections, and table text. Use the imperative sentence structure when appropriate. Less is more. Avoid emotionally charged verbs and adjectives. Do not use the pronoun we. And do not use contractions. Use the complete phrase instead. I don't think it says anything about hyphens. I'm searching the. It uses a few hyphens, not a lot. Yeah, so we do have sort of a style guide, but it doesn't seem to come down on whether we should use hyphens or not. So we came to a decision. Let's ask for that change. If for some reason no one wants to make that change, then I think that I think that could be done in a follow-up issue. You know,
one other detail, but it's also out of the scope for this issue, but it's something we came across already when we've discussed in the context of layout builder and the removal of a layout builder, setting the H1 of are you sure you want to disable a text format restricted HTML. There's something similar for layout builder. It's quite lengthy, and I'm not sure if it shouldn't be more concise and in part moved to the text body instead.
That's sort of a larger question with confirmation forms.
Yep. Totally out of the scope for this issue, but it's just resurfaced here. So just thought I mention it.
Yeah, well, since you bring it up, we have less than 10 minutes left. So we're certainly not going to take on another issue at this meeting. I suppose we could spend a few minutes just discussing this. Agreed, it is out of scope. We're not going to ask for any changes on this issue. I guess I would suggest making the H1 an imperative sentence. Disable the text format,
Yep.
basic HTML. And then maybe, are you sure you want to do this? Is the current standard always to make it a question?
I think so, yeah. So we'd want to maybe change that across the board if we were going to do it. I think it makes so this is my assumption. It comes from the days of computers displaying little pop-up boxes with yes no buttons that in the you know the content of the box, and usually the title of the window, it'll have the "Are you sure?" blah blah blah. There's pros and cons to adapting that approach. The pro is that visually, it, by nature of it being in the title or the H1, it's more, it draws your eye more than the buttons. Whereas if we put the sort of that more question in the content, it's much smaller. The text, the buttons are more, you know, dwarfing that. And when you look at these forms in a model on the page, the question again goes into the title of the model, so it's it kind of works like that. Obviously, the downside is it's a long title. Someone using a screen reader will have to listen to the whole question. That, you know, the whole "Are you sure you want to?" is the thing. Like, you have to hear that before you get to the important part about disable this text format. You know, so and that also means it's in the title of the tab in the browser window. So front loading, the problem there is it's not front loading the most important parts of information. It's so yeah, there's probably, you know, right there, there's pros and cons to either approach. But I'm certainly not opposed to changing it. You know, from an accessibility perspective, it would certainly be slightly better if we drop the question type format.
Yeah, I think the current confirmation form doesn't give you a lot of form elements. Like, if you wanted to break it up into H1, disable the basic, disable the text format basic HTML, and then have a paragraph. Are you sure you want to do this? I don't think the confirmation form gives us that paragraph element. So I think it would require changing how the confirmation form works and not just how we use it.
Yeah, and the actual confirm form class, let's say the API for using these, because it's pretty easy to create one of these forms as a developer. It's like, but that's the the thing is, it's like there's a method for, okay, what is the question? You know, it's literally structured in that question, and you know, confirm button and cancel button. Those are the actual methods that as a developer using it, you would override. So structurally, it doesn't help us that it's actually, you know, fundamentally structured around the idea of a question, right?
Okay, so let's leave it there. Maybe we can continue this discussion at another meeting or on Slack if we want. And I wonder if there are already any issues for changing that. But Ralph, will you add a comment to the issue we've been discussing?
Yep.
Or are you already overloaded since you still haven't done the one from last week?
The last one is close to finish, so I think I do both tonight and then done. Just for reconfirmation, resaved now with or without a hyphen? What was the consensus at the end?
I think with,
Okay.
but if you're leaving the comment, you can decide.
Yeah.
No.
That's how much we cared about that particular question.
The only thing I'll add is that to me it does look slightly cleaner without the hyphen, but again, I really don't have a strong preference.
Then let's go without the hyphen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it also looks a little bit more different from save than it would if it had the hyphen.
Yeah.
There-
Yeah.
Okay. And leave it open if folks want to change that string within the issue or in a follow-up as well. That's also up to them. Aside that, there's thumbs up for the issue itself. That was
Right.
the consensus. Okay.
And I expect it's a pretty easy change. I expect they'll
Yeah.
be happy to do it. But
Yep. All right.
okay, well, thank you all, and do it again next week.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you.